only reason an Asian woman would marry you is because of the prospect of a better life.
You go find a wife in the Philippines or Thailand or wherever these places are that are overseas. They're just happy to be rescued from their poverty-stricken life of no opportunity.
You may or may not be able to speak English properly.
One of the biggest problems with going overseas is what to do when you're there. And if you do go looking for someone, how do you meet them? Well, the website that is now a part sponsor of this channel, Vietnam Wingman, suggests that if you're interested in meeting and dating Vietnamese women, they can absolutely help you to do so. So what are a couple of things just to think about very quickly about dating Vietnamese girls as a foreigner? Well, as a foreigner in Vietnam, nothing should stop you from living your life to the fullest. Despite enjoying every bit of faultless Vietnamese attractions and impressive culture, you may think of dating a Vietnamese girl and starting a good relationship together. You may have to endure all the grueling process of dating to settle down to a relationship or marriage on that note. If you are a single or divorced person, like if you're a divorced guy and you wish to start a new life in Vietnam, it's time to get rolling. But first, you must know that Vietnamese girls are quite different from girls in the West. She may be a little bit conservative with unique values and traditions compared to the girls you are used to back home. Moreover, if you have never spent time in Vietnam, you may be jumping into murky waters that you might need some unique skills to help you navigate. Some relationships with Vietnamese girls have ended prematurely just because of cultural differences. But worry not, because there is a site that can actually help you if you are looking into being an expatriate moving to Vietnam, or if you are looking to meet and date Vietnamese women. In fact, you might be studying the Vietnamese language. There are a lot of passport bros right now who are IT professionals, and they are in Vietnam and in fact, I put one in a video not long ago. I'll try to pull that clip up. Maybe I'll use it again later on. But there are a lot of passport bros who are in Vietnam. There's a lot who are in Cambodia. And the thing about it is, if you were planning to go that direction, if you, for whatever reason, want to see this place, and you want to be a part of this place, one of the things you got to understand is Vietnam, very inexpensive place. It's very, very inexpensive. If you've ever been to Philippines, if you've ever been to Thailand, Vietnam is actually less expensive. And in many cases, it's actually nicer. Like, you can have a full condo and it might cost you $15 a day, $15 a day. And most people would say, well, that doesn't make sense, Big Truck. How is that possible? The reality is, here we are, we're Americans, and the average one of us, if you have a salary job, you're probably making, let's say, $40,000 to $50,000 a year. The average Vietnamese person makes less than $10,000 a year. If you go there, regardless what you're going there for, if you're an expatriate and you just, think about it. If you retire, and I am going to do a video about retiring in one of those countries. Maybe I'll even interview a retiree. But if you want to retire in one of those countries, let's say you only have a $30,000 or $40,000 pension, you can absolutely live like a king in one of those countries. I mean, you can have a beautiful bedroom, condo, pool, this, that, and other. You could have the best of food. You could have the best of drink if you're the type of person who drinks. Cigarettes are dirt cheap there. If that's how you want to live as a retiree, you can have the best of everything. Now, what Vietnam Wingman is there for is to help you meet someone. Let's say you're a divorcee. Let's say you've never been married before. Let's say you're looking to get married. You want to start a family. Vietnam Wingman can help you to do that. Now, I actually did a video about them already just to get it started, to get you interested. But if you're interested, you can look into that. And Vietnamese Wingman, they can help you to maybe find the woman of your dreams, maybe to find and settle down into the home of your dreams. Because the reality is, if you only got like $30,000 or $40,000 as a pension, chances are you don't really have that much here in America. Because if you really think about it, $30,000 ain't that much. What are you paying? $2,000 a month on a property here that's probably costing you way more than that. You'd be in debt. But when you move over to, say, Vietnam, let's say you move to Ho Chi Minh City, or if you move to one of the areas, the countryside, you can live like a king, and you can be comfortable with even a small pension. Even if it's $20,000 or $30,000, you can be very comfortable like that. So once again, check out Vietnam Wingman, and maybe things can work out for you in ways that you never could have imagined. Okay, so before I even get started reading this story, there's something that actually really, really bothers me. And it seems like there's some type of cognitive dissonance, or there's some type of intellectual dishonesty surrounding whether or not men from America, specifically black men from America, should travel to other countries. Now, we just recently saw two different black men who were completely unarmed. One was Tier Nichols, and there's been others, but in one case, you've got one guy who reports a car accident and for whatever reason decides to run out into traffic being chased by the police, and he gets tased to death. Then you have Tier Nichols, who gets beaten to death by 5 police officers. Now, here's the thing. These are just two of the most recent cases of unarmed black men being killed in America for whatever reason, whether it was their fault or not. But the thing about it is, what gets me is people who are quick to try to say that you shouldn't travel simply because you're endangered overseas, especially if they want to use the case of Eric Gavin as a reason why you shouldn't travel overseas, when he went to a place and was most likely killed simply because he was in a high crime area and he was caught photographing a drug den of sorts. And I'm like, excuse me, it's like, you've got enough to worry about just being right here in America. So why should you be worried about traveling? Now, what I will say is, as I've pointed out, because I've made 2 videos about staying safe in foreign countries, but the reality is you've got more to worry about exactly where you are. It actually reminds me of during COVID, how people kept telling me I shouldn't travel and I should be careful going overseas. And I was like, well, excuse me. I live here in New York City, and we had 2,000 people dying every single day, supposedly because of COVID. So I'm like, why are you telling me that I got to worry about going overseas if I'm already in ground zero? It doesn't make sense. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a level of cognitive dissonance. Maybe it's a level of intellectual dishonesty. Maybe it's a level of intellectual just absence. Maybe in this case, they haven't done any of the research. They don't understand that, listen, basically it's like this. Under certain circumstances, nobody's safe. It's like you could go out right now, you can get killed walking your Dougie. You could go out right now, you can get in a car accident. You could get in a car accident on your way to work. You could have a truck plow into you. It could be snowing outside, this, that, and the other. Now, when you try to put it on a human level and you want to talk about the people, it's like, listen, I lived in China for over 2 years as a student. I never had a problem with the Chinese police. I can't say the same thing here. Now, I can't say that I was never pulled over by the Chinese police. I was never questioned by the Chinese police. I was never forcibly detained by the Chinese police. I've been to South Korea. I've never had a single problem with the Korean police. I was walking around at night in South Korea. Now, here I am, a 6'6" tall black man walking around at night in South Korea. Never had a single problem. Philippines, same thing. Never had a single problem. And the Chinese police, not Chinese police, but the Filipino police, is really not a whole lot of Filipino police. It's really a lot of armed guards. Like, everybody has armed guards for their, for their all-inclusives and for their hotels and for their convenience stores. And there's like armed guards with 45 1911s and shotguns at the mall because they have to watch out for Indonesian terrorists and this, that, and other. I never had a single problem. I mean, granted, like I go into the mall, they check my bags and stuff, kind of like, stop and frisk. But the thing about it is that was just policy. They didn't do that because I was black. They just did that because I was going into the mall. So my thing is, it's like people are trying to use isolated incidents in order to make it seem as if your life is more endangered than it actually is. And I have a problem with that. Like, I'm sorry. I've been too many places and I'm still alive. I have a problem with that. It's like, if they're not gonna get me, chances are, as long as you're not doing anything stupid, you'll be fine. So anyway, not to derail the conversation too much, 6 safe places to visit this year if you're young, black, and traveling solo. Now, this was January 11, 2023. So it says, book the trip. The worst of the pandemic seems to be behind us. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, and the travel boom is back and better than ever. We're sure you've scrolled through Instagram and seen the pictures of black people globe-trotting everywhere from Egypt to Ghana and back again. If you're like us, then you want in on the fun. According to a study by MMGY Global, black leisure travelers spent a staggering $129.6 billion on international and domestic travel in 2019. That's more than double the $63 billion black people contributed to travel and tourism around the globe in 2018. So they're saying black people contributed, more than double the $63 billion. Yeah, I mean, what is this? Black leisure travelers spent a staggering $129.6 billion. I've seen estimates that say black wealth in America is like 1.8 trillion or 1.6 or 7 trillion dollars. I just wish I could reach all black people, and if they would follow my advice, they'd all have fucking perfect credit. They'd all have 850 credit scores. They'd all own multiple houses. There'd be no more divorces. But the thing about it is, I don't have that kind of reach or that power. But the reality is, we control a lot of money as black people, especially if you're a passport bro. You control a lot of money. Because the average one of us who's traveling, especially if you're a passport bro, the average one of us traveling is like what? We're making at least $50,000 at least, and that's a low end number. Usually it's more like $80,000 to $100,000. Sometimes they do these surveys, and when they do these surveys and they ask you, what's your average income and this, that, and other, I've seen some of the data come back from that. Like, some of it I take with a grain of salt, some of it I actually look into. But the reality is, it's like, we're not poor. We got money. We got money coming in. We got jobs. We're expatriates. We're going to other countries working and this, that, and other. Says there are multiple families who have dropped everything to travel the world and take the children with them. New Travel Channel shows featuring black travelers and airlines who have finally gotten the hint, boosting their promotion of diversity and inclusion in the world of travel. Now, my thing is, it's really nice that the airlines are adapting their messages in order to be inclusive. I really, that's a good thing. But, it's like they're just doing what they can. I mean, they're corporations at the end of the day. Corporations are going to do what they got to do. Life is too wondrous and long to wait on anyone. If you're ready to travel, consider going solo. While it can be scary and no place is guaranteed to be 100% safe. There are international destinations that have been reported safer for black travelers than others. If you're ready to get adventurous in the new year and want some help choosing a destination, we've scoured the internet for you. Here are 6 places to visit this year if you're young, black, and traveling solo, courtesy of Essence and Travel Noir. So it's them again. Travel Noir is the one who did that story about passport bros like about almost a month ago. So they're saying Cuba. As a result of the tense relationship between the U.S. and Cuba, travel to Cuba is more complicated than usual. Tourism is technically not accepted, and you do need a visa. However, with a little research, it is undoubtedly one of the best places to travel. The history, art, nightlife, and culture will make you go back again and again. Go for education or get involved in a humanitarian project. Whatever you do, just make sure you go. You won't regret it. All right, I'm going to just say this right here. I've got a problem with traveling to Cuba. I can't travel to Cuba unless we have direct flights from here, like let's say JFK, to Cuba. I am not going to go to another country and then from that country fly into Cuba. I'm not going to do it. If we don't have direct travel, which means that ultimately Congress needs to drop all of the hostilities against Cuba since the Cold War is over, and it has been for a long time, like since the 90s, I can't see myself doing that kind of travel. Now, it was funny because when Barack Obama was in office, we had some level of direct travel to Cuba, but until the Congress normalizes relations with Cuba, I can't see doing that because I'm not putting myself in any situation where the State Department can't make 2 or 3 phone calls and get me out of a bad situation. I'm not doing it. So that's just me. And I know some of you may have been to Cuba and you feel differently about it. And I know some people want to argue, but listen, I'm just telling you what I'm not going to do. So if you don't like what I'm not going to do, then you know what? I can't tell you anything else. This is not the channel for you. I'm just telling you what I'm not going to do. Tanzania. While the return is happening all across Africa for people of the diaspora, we recommend skipping over the busyness of Ghana or Cape Town for a luxurious escape in Tanzania. There is so much to do and so many beautiful places to see, and it's truly an experience like no other. You can visit Mount Kilimanjaro or one of the several national parks, take a walk on the wild side for the Serengeti Safari, or go be a beach bum on the island of Zanzibar. I think I would consider doing this. I was actually looking into Zanzibar and I was looking at Tanzania. The thing that stood out to me was the fact the hotels were expensive. The flight wasn't so bad because I only fly business class. I did look at the prices of the flight. The flight wasn't bad. It was just that the hotel prices pushed because, you know, if you fly business class, you're going to stay at a nice hotel. But the hotel prices I felt were a little bit steep. But then again, that was like right after COVID. So I'd have to kind of look again to see what that looks like. Japan. Okay. Now, I can speak from personal knowledge. I stayed in Shinjuku-ku, Tokyo. And I was just talking about this with somebody else the other night. Japan, especially if you go to Tokyo, it's an absolutely like mesmerizing place. It's beautiful at night. During the day, it's super clean. It's super neat. I never had any problems with any of the people. Never had any problems with the police. Before I went there, I watched some what was it, Takeshi Kitano Yakuza movies. You know, Takeshi Kitano is a Japanese director, and he makes a bunch of movies about the Yakuza. And that place had me scared shitless. But when I actually got there, I was like, you know what? This isn't so bad. I never actually saw anybody missing any fingers. Because what it is if you're a Yakuza and you say something stupid, the boss forces you to chop off one of your fingers. And you got to hand it to him as a token of your promise not to be stupid no more, right? I never saw anybody with missing fingers. Now, I do know that missing fingers is an issue and that they do have a prosthetic, factory or whatever that makes rubber fingers or something, so it doesn't look like you're missing fingers. But for the most part, the place was great. I never had any issue with security or anything. Very lovely hotels. They are a little on the small side, but the only problem that I did see with Japan is the expense. When I was there, I was spending $200 a day. And it was just $200 a day I was spending. And that was between, like, the hotel by itself was like $125. So you factor going out, traveling, eating, whatever you're doing. It was like, no. I took a very short taxi ride, and that cost me like $60. I mean, the expenses are high. Furthermore, if you go to, say, Ichibara, or you go to like an electric town and you're looking at like the electronics and stuff, what's funny is with smartphones on the level that they're on, smartphones basically killed all of the stuff that I saw when I was in Japan. Like, for instance, Japan had what was called J-Phone, and J-Phone was pretty much their private network, right? So back then, this was a while ago, but they had advanced phones compared to what we had before iPhone. But once iPhone came out, iPhone killed everything. Like, iPhone killed MP3 players, it killed the cell phone markets, and everybody wanted an iPhone or some level of smartphone. So basically, it's like a lot of their electronics just, aren't really that exciting anymore. The anime scene is really good. They got a lot of models. You go to some of their stores, they have a lot of models and stuff you can buy. They got a lot of the Gundams and Exo Squad and the anime figures like Mega Man and this, that, and other. So, it all depends what you're going there for, but it's an absolutely amazing place. Iceland. Iceland, from here, JFK to Iceland, if you're flying economy, it's like $600. I think if you're flying business, it may be up to about $2,000. It's not a long flight. It's only like, I think it's about 4 to 5 hours, depending upon where you're going, because I think the main place you go is Reykjavik. I had once just wanted to go there, but right now I just don't care to go there. It's like maybe in the future. I'm not really interested. But here's the thing. As far as safety goes, you ain't got nothing to worry about there. Now, I personally can't speak to Iceland. However, I have very close friends who did go to Iceland who are black, and they enjoyed it. They had no trouble at all. They all came back alive. So, that's just that. So I can say that. Bali. Okay, so I have been down here. Bali is part of Indonesia. Now, as you know, Indonesia just passed what was called the Bali bonk ban, which was basically a way to allow the family to snitch on you if you're having premarital sex. I have a video covering the Bali bonk ban, and I have a video entitled Whether or Not I Feel Passport Bros Are Safe in Indonesia with the Bali bonk ban trying to be enforced. But for the most part, if you go to Indonesia, you're going to Bali for the most part. Bali is a tourist destination. They know tourists are coming there to do touristy things. For the most part, they don't want to create a bad situation that causes tourists not to want to go there. They want people to want to come to Bali. It's just like Bangkok. They want people to want to come to Bangkok. So most of these governments, they do whatever they can to make things as safe and as welcoming to tourists as possible. It's just like Dubai. Sex and the City, they overplayed I guess you could say, threats towards women specifically. Now, Sex and the City, these are like white Jewish women going over there. And I saw that movie. I think it was the second movie, Sex and the City 2. I saw that movie. And before I went to Dubai for the first time, I saw that movie. And when I actually went to Dubai, I was like, wait a minute. This is like nothing like what they showed on the movie. And my thing is, it's like Dubai is like a must-see place. Dubai is the most amazing place I've ever gone to. It's just amazing. Everything about it's amazing. And I'm not going to get too far off the point. All I'm saying is it's like these places are tourist destinations and they want you to want to go there. And they not only that, but they want you to spread the word about going there. So if you go to Bali, chances are, as long as you're not doing anything stupid like getting drunk and trying to fight people, like you should be just fine and you should have a great time. Okay, south of France. I can't speak on this at all because I don't care about Europe. All right, so it was just easy. I just skipped right over that. So here's the thing. As a 6'6" tall, dark black skinned man, I can honestly say South Korea, I would add to this list. China, I would add to this list. Now, I know you heard a lot of things during, COVID about how they were treating Africans, but you have to understand there's a difference between Africans and African Americans. There's a huge difference. Africans have spread all over Asia. They're in Russia. In fact, Russia elected a black mayor in one of it. There was a black mayor elected in a Russian, small Russian city. And the thing about it is a lot of the, how should I say, the anecdotes about racism in certain places, a lot of them are overdone. But I'll say this, if you're a black American, you traveling ain't the same thing as an African travel. It's just not the same thing. They look at us differently. I'm an African American. I'm not an African. So the bottom line is when we go places, that U.S. passport and that U.S. money, it speaks a little bit different of a language than your Zimbabwe dollar or your money from Zanzibar. It's just what it is. But even when it was funny, even when I was in the Philippines, there were a lot of Africans there. I talk to them every time I see brothers. And by the way, let me just say this real quick because I'm sick and tired. Let me just say this. Do not, because there's some people come on my channel to troll and shit. Do not lecture me on what a passport bro is. As far as I'm concerned, a passport bro is a black man who has a passport and he's traveling, whether he's there looking for women or not. Do not lecture me. I talk to I'm going to call them just like that. I'm going to call them passport bros. I talk to passport bros wherever I see them. Period. I'm not negotiating. I'm not arguing. This is what I'm saying, whether you like it or not. Do not argue me. Because if you want to argue with me, there's a window and you can go defenestrate yourself. And that's it. I'm not arguing about that. So I talk to passport bros regularly when I go overseas. And even when I was in China, there was one passport bro. Now, he was from Africa and a dark-skinned black man. I might have a picture of him somewhere. His name was No. He had a Chinese girlfriend. He spoke like a bunch of Chinese dialects. There were a bunch of other African passport bros. When I went to Thailand, when I went to Japan. In fact, when I went to Japan, what's funny about it is Japan and South Korea. Here I am, a 6'6" tall black guy, and I'm on their trains. I'm sitting next to them. The people acted like, and this is just Japan and South Korea, they acted like I wasn't there. Like, they don't talk to strangers unless you engage them first in many cases. And they're a bit shy, especially around strangers, especially around like black Americans. But it was almost like Godzilla was standing there and everybody was doing their best to ignore the fact that Godzilla was there. And there was like one guy I talked to and he was very nice. He just talked right back to me, but I think I talked to him first. I don't remember. But the thing about it is, when I was in Japan, it was nighttime, and there was a African dude, because the Japanese hire them for the clubs, and most of those guys speak Japanese too, and they're used to help get tourists to come to the clubs. And he helped me. I think it was like I was trying to figure out how to use the calling cards to call outside the country, but now you don't have to worry about that. Now you just use your cell phone. Thing about it is, for every single one of them I talked to, there wasn't a single one who had anything negative to say. More recently, I was in the Philippines. More recently, I was in South Korea. Not a single one of them had anything negative to say. Not a single one of them. Not a one. And I ask questions, just like you might. You go, how do they treat you here? Do you ever experience any racism or anything? No, not a single one of them had anything negative to say. So Japan, South Korea, even Shanghai, China, I could absolutely add to that list right there because I feel this list is a bit short. What else? Maldives is another country. I just went to Maldives. I liked Maldives. Didn't have any trouble. I made video on Maldives. I showed you what Maldives looks like. I showed you the parts of Maldives you don't see, like what the city looks like. Because I was always very shocked about that. Like, you watch these videos on YouTube, you never see what the city looks like. You never see what the regular people look like. Islamic State, Muslim women covered with burqas, hijabs, burkinis. For the most part, they were very, very nice people. I didn't have any problem with them. Not at all. They never gave me any problem. In fact, it was Ramadan, and they weren't supposed to serve me in certain places, but because they knew I was a tourist and they knew I was hungry, like, they'd close their shades, and during certain times of the day, like, you're not supposed to eat until like 6 o'clock. And the family goes out and they have a buffet at the end of the day. But when they saw that, they're like, oh, yo, there's a tourist here and he's looking for some food, that like they'd close their shades and they'd let me eat inside. Nobody knew anything. Nobody said anything. It was no problem. So my thing is, though, that's what you have to do. Sometimes you got to go above and beyond to make the tourists feel comfortable and happy. And that's what they did. So I have no problem at all. Like if I had a problem, I could just say I had a problem. If I felt racism, I could say, yeah, I felt that these people were being racist. All of these places that I keep naming didn't have a single problem. Thailand, no problem at all. No problem. Didn't have a single problem in Thailand. Not a one. Seychelles, well, obviously that's part of Africa. Didn't have a single problem. Not a one. I could add that to the list. So my thing is, there's other countries I could add to the list. Vietnam, Cambodia. If you're a Black American man, you can go to Phnom Penh. You can go to Ho Chi Minh City. And I'm really thinking, now that I have iPhone, because see, the traveling that I did before 2007, I couldn't get that on video. If I could have, I would have had videotapes of Japan and Shanghai, China. But, you know, iPhone came out in 2007, and we didn't really get a video camera until 2009. A real video camera, a real good one. So my thing is, if I could have had those things on record, I would have. If I go back to those places, I would definitely use my iPhone, make a 5-hour-long video about these places, you know? The thing about it is you're seeing more and more YouTubers now. You're seeing more and more Black American YouTubers who are going to these countries, learning the language, and making lots and lots of videos on these places. So my thing is, for my YouTube vlogging, I would actually prefer to go to places people don't go. And when I say places people don't go, I'm not talking about like war zones and fucking drug-infested areas. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about going to places that are, you know, less traveled, you know, and going to the parts where nobody really goes, but, you know, that are safe, but that like nobody makes videos about them, you know. That's what I like to do. So it's like safe exploratory travel, basically. So, yeah, that's the list. So, yeah, the passport, you see, the thing, it's so sad with this situation with Eric. The sad thing about it is, as I expected, and they did the same exact thing that they did to Kevin Samuels. When Kevin Samuels died, oh, yeah, see, I told you so. You know, it's like, you know, listen, this guy, like, he was in a place where there was violence. He didn't know. I'm really shocked that there was nobody to tell him don't go to certain places. And this is one of the reasons why I said when you're in foreign countries, you need to, you know, make friends with locals, talk to people, find out where it's safe to go, where it's not safe to go. Make sure the State Department knows where you are. If, you know, log plans with the State Department, because the State Department, and especially like if you're in another country with the consulates will tell you places that there are advisories, tourist advisories, like where should you go, where shouldn't you go? You know, so my thing is, it's like, you know, what happened to him first of all, it was a crime, but it could have been avoided. But see, the thing about it is, these people online, and, you know, I had a lot of people jump on my channel and, oh, he's not a passport bro. Here's the thing, though. When these TikTok video makers heard about that, do you think they were worried about whether or not he was a passport bro or not? No. They said, oh, he's in Chile? He must be a passport bro. So they immediately started piling on, oh, yeah, that's what happens when you go to Chile. That's what happens. Stay your ass home. Stay your black ass home. So my thing is, don't lecture me. The reality is they were already on this before I was on it. So my thing is, it's like, yes, there is levels of safety that you want to practice. There are certain precautions you want to take. But the reality is, if you're a black male and you're traveling, for the most part, you ain't got much to worry about depending upon where you're going. For the most part, as long as you go to a stable government area or you go to a country that has a stable system, for the most part, you ain't got to worry about nothing. Now, there was a tourist advisory not long ago in the Dominican Republic, and one of the things I realized while I was down there in 2011, there's a lot of Haitian transients, beggars, migrants that come to DR. And DR was doing their best to expunge them. And now I don't think that that's a good thing, but the problem is that's just what they were doing. My uncle got married down there. There were Haitian beggars who came into the wedding, the ending of the wedding, the procession, like as you're leaving, and they were begging. Now, while I'm watching this, like young Haitian boys begging right in front of me, I'm looking across the street and you've got Dominican military armed soldiers just standing there just in case there's a problem. And they got their weapons out, just like the ones who came and stood next to me when I'm holding out my iPhone taking photos. I got one next to me with a shotgun, one next to me with an AK-47 style rifle. So my thing is, it's like, you know, for the most part, when you go to most of these countries, they are looking out for you. They don't want nothing to happen to a tourist, because if they lose tourism, a lot of these countries would fold. And the last thing they want is bad shit happening and people getting like having a negative attitudes towards your country. It's just like with Natalie Holloway. When Natalie Holloway went missing, they harassed the Aruban people. Then come to find out it was Jordan Vandersloot who was going around killing women. And the thing about it is the Aruban people were harassed over this girl. And apparently her family must have had some means, because they were doing shit looking for her. They had fighter jets with sonar and shit. And I'm like, I had never imagined like they would ever look for somebody that hard. But most of you may not even remember Natalie Holloway. But the point is, they do not want negative information about their country at all. And they will do whatever it takes to make sure that that negative information doesn't get out, or they'll make sure that it like gets squashed. So they'll do what they can for the most part to make you comfortable and to make you safe around, because they know who their people are. They know who their troublemakers are, and they know who has a history of dealing with tourists. So these people aren't playing. So the thing about it is, what happened to Gavin was a crime. It was a crime. It was a tragedy. It didn't need to happen. Shouldn't have happened. But the thing about it is, when you go overseas, yeah, there's certain places that you can go where you ain't got to worry about nothing. And then there's certain places you go where you definitely have to be on the lookout.
And
if you want to call us uneducated and poor, that we will get any opportunity we can get just so we can get out of poverty. Men are supposed to be providers, so they are going to provide for their future partners and family. The bottom line is, we have what they are looking for. I don't understand where is the rage from these women coming from. Why are they even surprised their men leaving when they are the one who is causing it?
To be continued.